Everybody's not going to be happy with different compromises because different people have different values, people have different wants, different needs. The pursuit of happiness. When the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence were written, we know who wasn't at the table. We live under the governors. My history in politics goes back to 2014, protesting down in Dover, here in Delaware, against the death penalty. I recognize that the death penalty was racist, that they hung us, that they strung us up, that they killed us, black people, more than they did anybody else. The white people, the white men that sat in these rooms in Philadelphia, Constitution, Declaration of Independence, they were out to pursue their own happiness. Some of them wanted to pursue each other. We know that LGBTQIA plus didn't start there. Back to the Roman bathhouses and Caligula, you go all the way back to that empire. It existed then. Some of them wanted to hunt each other. Some of them wanted to hunt bears like RFK. I'll say this. There's a governor who's progressive in Colorado. He's also the richest governor. Used to be a congressperson. These folks in office, these millionaires in office and billionaires in office, they don't represent the most vulnerable people, the most violently attacked people. Poverty is a violent way to live. It's a hard way to live. It's pain. It's torture. People's basic needs aren't met. Hunger, starvation, your dietary needs, your health. People are sick. People are going through different kinds of treatments, suffering from diseases of depression and addiction. These are diseases. Black people from all over, I'm talking about the whole diaspora, from Africa to the Caribbean to here in the continental United States, the descendants of formerly enslaved people. We have a special stake in our reparation and our restoration that we're owed. We have a special stake that I've said over and over again that Kamala Harris is not entitled to. She is black. Her ancestors that are African come from the same part of Africa that our ancestors come from, I'm sure. Congo, modern day Congo, was Zaire, central part of Africa, and Western Africa, Nigeria, Mali, Cameroon. These are the colonizers' names. These names come from European conquerors or colonizers, Germany and England and France. That's where this pain comes from. They're the ones that owe this money. They're still here. We're still here. They're still benefiting. They're still privileged. They're still stealing from the continent, still taking jewels, still taking minerals like cobalt. We know about these wars against our people, these wars against, they put us against each other, just like in the hood. They'll use people that look like us to take from us. They'll use people that look like us to keep us from getting what we deserve. They'll pay those that put us in the barracoons, that keep us in the jails waiting for them to come with the ships. The presidents that they elect that look like us. They got the black faces, but they don't do what needs to be done for the black people. in Georgia. I'm in Delaware right now, but my mom and my grandmom live in Georgia. They have a jail where black people are in power. They're the DAs and the sheriffs and all that, but still they got a governor that they call Kickback Kemp that receives all sorts of money, and he's Republican, and they answer to him. The governor in Colorado, who's really progressive, they'll say like this governor from Minnesota is progressive, is the most progressive, but he's on the same team as Pete Buttigieg. So that's why he wasn't selected as the VP candidate. But this is a governor out of Colorado who is really, really progressive when it comes to the rights of people who are in prison. And I don't know the exact numbers on who's in jail out there in Colorado, but I know in Georgia, it's mostly people that look like me. It's mostly black males. It's mostly us. And I say that really pained because I know that they're down there making weapons out of the jail that's falling apart, the infrastructure that is torn up that shouldn't be. And I know that they shouldn't be in there for as long as they are without even going to court. They haven't even been proven guilty. Some of them are on trial, but they haven't been proven guilty yet, and they're still sitting in jail. Colorado has an amazing policy where if you're in jail for 10 days, you come home. You don't sit in there longer than 10 days. There's people in jails across this country who've been locked up for 10 months and haven't been in court yet. I know because in 2008, I was locked up for 10 months without being to trial, without being in court, without being proven guilty of a crime. During that time, I missed my 21st birthday. I missed the first election that I would have been able to vote in for Barack Obama. These presidential races, they matter, but these state races matter as well. These races for governor, these races for our Congress people. Delaware is going to send the first transgender congressperson to Washington, D.C. this year, 2024. Somehow, Eugene Young, who was a candidate for U.S. Congress, stepped away. I don't know how that happened. I know that one of the big organizing outfits, Network Delaware, started from his campaign for mayor. And I don't know how Sarah McBride is now going to be our representative in Congress. She doesn't represent me. I don't know her. Good afternoon. First, I'm going to start off by saying that I am still voting for Cornel West for president. And I want to say why. For 50, maybe 60 years, Cornel West he's been about the people. He's been an advocate, he's been a speaker, he's been a professor, he's been an organizer, he's been a real abolitionist, he's been someone who has wanted to liberate his people, our people. I think that, or I know that, when he says that he's for love and he's for justice, he really means it. When I see officials that are running, people who have been career politicians, who have been in office for 20 years, longer, but haven't done anything really for the soul restoration, the real community work that needs to take place in high office, making sure people are finally on the same level, have the same resources. When I see that, and I see smiles, when people all over the planet are being killed in our proxy wars, our wars that we don't want to own, that we don't want to put our names on, in Gaza, Israel, and Palestine, and Ukraine against Russia. These wars in Africa that we don't talk about, in the Congo, even in the Caribbean, in Haiti. These wars that we don't know about over resources that we don't get to see any sort of benefit from. But we got the cobalt. My people come from the Congo. I had to take an ancestry analysis. I had to do a DNA analysis to know that. Not really. If you're black and you live in America, you're a descendant of enslaved people from Africa. They came over from Central and Western Africa. You have DNA, you have ancestors that came from the Congo. They were taken from the middle of the continent and the western part, Nigeria, Mali, Cameroon. This is where your ancestors come from. If you're from the Caribbean, still, this is the case. This is why folks say that Kamala is black, because a slight portion of her ancestry, some of her ancestors, because she has different ancestors from India, ancestors from Europe. Her father has European ancestry, the one from Jamaica, not just Western African DNA, but your ancestors, if you're from the Caribbean, from Jamaica, from Haiti, and you're black, they were enslaved, they were taken from Africa too. So you do have a piece to say in this African diaspora, our reparation from these colonizers, these Europeans that colonized, that enslaved. But when we talk about African American reparation, restoration, what we're owed, not everyone has entitlement to what we own, because what's ours and what we must demand, what I must say with more authority, I can't say it without more people. I gotta have everybody behind me to say it like I need to say it. We gotta say it. It can't just be me saying it. Every day, I always say is an opportunity to do better than you did yesterday. In order to do better, you gotta know better. Maya Angelou said that. There's folks that know better now that don't do better now. There's folks that have known for a long time the truth, but still do what doesn't need to be done. We don't need to hurt our brothers, our sisters, our cousins all over the planet. We don't need to allow for folks to be killed indiscriminately because of a war that is not for our better interest. Grandmothers, elders, their grandbabies, infants, children, killed indiscriminately, murdered by the powers that be. America, your tax dollars. And these weapons of war, mass destruction. And these Zionists, like Kamala Harris and the governor from Minnesota, Walls, they can smile Tim Walls, the coach. He looks like the Gilligan's Island. Looks like the what was his name? Skipper from Gilligan's Island. That's what he looks like. He can smile. He's the coach. He's a happy guy. While more people die. Kamala, he talks about her joy. We can't be sociopathic, schizophrenic. But I'm crazy for telling the truth. Donald Trump should have been locked up. Nobody that's been charged as many times as he's been charged in as many places who has been proven guilty that looks like me. I mean, nobody that looks like me gets that many charges and isn't in jail. He should have been locked up in Fulton County in Georgia with all the brothers that's locked down in Georgia, all the black men that's locked down in Georgia that's making weapons, making swords to protect themselves and to do violence in jail against other brothers that's locked up with the infrastructure from the jail that's falling apart. While the black administration who are in control, you know, they got kickback Kemp down there. They got a Republican governor down there. They got a Republican justice system. They got black people that are in these positions of power with black faces that ain't all kinfolk. All skinfolk ain't kinfolk. We talk about governors. You know, I started an indigent campaign for governor here in Delaware. And that's another story. But Colorado has a progressive governor who's a Democrat. But he's in line with Pete Buttigieg. They're on the same team, if you know what I mean. And this man is very wealthy, the wealthiest governor in the USA, I believe. So let me think about, well, let us think, let everyone think together about poverty, excess, opulence, everything on the other side of poverty, pain. Because poverty is pain, it's violence, it's danger, it's risk. And then over here, where you can smile, where you can be happy, where you can be successful. I'm in Delaware. There's a representative who's gonna come out of Delaware who's transgender. It's never happened before. Sarah McBride, born a man, I'm not sure the name, but born a man, is now a woman. This is a person who I've never had a conversation with, but this person is going to be our next congressperson, our one congressperson. But there was a black man in the race who had to step away because of the Democratic establishment. I'll elaborate, I'll go on a little bit about the Democratic establishment, the white supremacist Zionist establishment, the haves have all this, but they don't have all that. They don't have morality, they don't have that. They don't have moral capacity. They don't have love for humanity. They kill. They steal. This Declaration of Independence here was written by nothing but white men. And they talked about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All these white dudes together in this room, their pursuit of happiness was probably, some of them wanted to pursue each other. So you can't act like this whole LGBTQIA thing plus just started, because it didn't. You go back to Rome, you go back to Caligula and all that, those Roman bathhouses, that wasn't anything new. So their pursuit of happiness, some of them wanted to hunt each other. Some of them wanted to go and hunt bears, like RFK Jr. Some of them wanted to hunt that WAP. And that Democratic fundraiser showcase down there in Atlanta, that appealed to some of them. And this new ticket with walls is just as appealing, because he hunts, he's got his gun. That was the Second Amendment. That was important, to be able to protect your house. But we weren't homeowners, property owners. We were owned as property. So we're not supposed to have anything, not a right, not anything, not a voice. We weren't supposed to vote. It is important, but who are we voting for? What decisions are we actually making? Who's actually deciding where money goes, where it's spent? Do we have a universal base income? Do we have participatory budgeting? Do we have school lunches and breakfast? And do we have basic needs met? Clean clothes, clean water, clean air? Do we have everything that the most vulnerable need? Treatment for substance abuse, these pills and this alcohol that folks are addicted to because folks need to make money, and you can't keep it away. They're going to keep prescribing it. They're going to keep their liquor stores intact. Those are going to be the businesses that exist in our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods that are torn up, the infrastructure is not right. We don't have safe space, clean spaces. We don't have enough parks. We don't have enough trees. We're not happy enough. And I'm not talking about those kinds of trees. Those are weapons of war. Of course, cannabis is a natural antidepressant. It's a natural painkiller. But at the same time, it'll make you dizzy. It'll make you happy. It'll make you smile. But it'll make you not be able to focus on what you need to focus on. Tim Walz had a DUI back in the day. Not a DWI. There aren't a lot of people talking about that. He would have never been Joe Biden's vice president, not just because he's a white man, but because Joe Biden's family was torn apart because of a drunk driver. His daughter was killed in a car accident, the drunk driver. I believe that Tim Walz has learned from his mistake from way back then, way back when. Alcohol is not the answer. Drugs are not the answer. I think all candidates, all officials should be drug tested. I think they should have clear minds, sober minds. I think that does matter. If you've got access to the levers of power, if you've got access to weapons of mass destruction, you can press that button. Just like not everybody should have a gun. If you've been convicted of these different crimes that are violent, and if you're an addict like Hunter Biden, You shouldn't have a gun that you're leaving out there for the kids to get. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, their ticket, I'll say something positive about them. J.D. Vance yesterday during the whole Democratic fiasco, he brought out poor people to talk about what they were going through, to talk about how things were hard for them. And that was the great thing about the Poor People's Campaign that I recognized that made me decide to join that campaign. It was because they gave people who didn't have a platform to speak about what they didn't have and how they wanted better. And that's therapy. That's treatment. That's helping folks in the worst situation. Just being heard. Just having a stage and a microphone to be able to talk about what needs to happen. Even if the policy doesn't get written, you had an opportunity to at least talk about what needed to be done. And with pushing, with work, with organizing, with great minds being elected, with strong resolve, heart, commitment, people, all hands on deck, things get done. When we keep God first, when we recognize that we are greater than our worst mistakes, we can do a whole lot more to go forward. But when certain folks aren't brought to the table, aren't considered at all, aren't seen as valuable because of what they look like, or because of how they think, how they recognize wrong, how they recognize evil. When you recognize it, even in yourself, when you're able to be focused enough to extract that part that is not right, that is weak, that is not going to be conducive to success, to fruit bearing, to that certificate, that diploma, that whatever it is, that institution, that program, whatever it is that you have to do good, that partnership, that networking. The problem is everything that we want to do as a community that we need to be together about takes everybody, and you got to make everybody happy. Everybody's got to be smiling, and people are going through the worst. People are going through all kinds of pain. People got all these different beliefs, different values, so it's kind of hard to find that happy medium. But we got to pursue it.